The 30-year-old CEO, impregnated cute girl. She is now treasure of his family. Imagine this, a man at the peak of his career, a 30-year-old CEO with charisma that lights up every room he walks into. He's built an empire from scratch, commanding respect and admiration from everyone around him. But behind the polished suits and confident smile lies a secret, a life-changing decision that would alter not just his world, but also the life of someone unexpected. This is a story about power, vulnerability, love, and the choices we make when life throws us curveballs. It's about how one young woman became more than just a fleeting chapter in his life. She became the treasure of his family. Let's rewind to where it all began. Meet Ethan Carter, the self-made millionaire who turned his tech startup into a billion-dollar company before hitting his 30s. On paper, he had everything: wealth, success, influence. But beneath the surface, there was a loneliness that no amount of money could fill. Ethan wasn't the kind of guy you'd expect to settle down anytime soon. His life revolved around board meetings, late-night strategy sessions, and jet-setting across continents for business deals. Yet fate has a funny way of intervening when you least expect it. And that's exactly what happened during a charity gala in downtown Manhattan, a night that changed everything. Enter Mia Thompson, a 22-year-old aspiring artist whose warmth and innocence stood out like a beacon among the glittering crowd. She wasn't part of Ethan's usual circle. In fact, she almost didn't attend the event, tagging along only because her best friend begged her to come. Dressed in a simple yet elegant dress, Mia radiated a quiet confidence that caught Ethan's eye immediately. Their first conversation started innocently enough, a few polite exchanges about art and philanthropy. But as the evening wore on, they found themselves drawn to each other in ways neither anticipated. There was something genuine about Mia, something real that made Ethan want to let his guard down, if only for a moment. Fast forward 6 months, and their lives are intertwined in ways neither of them could have predicted. What started as a chance encounter blossomed into something deeper, though neither fully understood where it was headed. Ethan was used to being in control, making calculated decisions in both his personal and professional life. But Mia challenged him in ways no one else ever had. She saw beyond the titles and accolades, past the carefully constructed facade he showed the world. For the first time, Ethan felt seen, not as a CEO or a billionaire, but as a person with dreams, fears, and vulnerabilities. Then came the bombshell. A pregnancy test confirmed what Mia had suspected for weeks. The news hit them both like a tidal wave, forcing them to confront questions they weren't ready to answer. How do you balance ambition with responsibility? Can love survive the weight of expectations? These were uncharted waters for both of them, especially given their vastly different backgrounds. Ethan had always been driven by logic and planning, while Mia approached life with a sense of spontaneity and hope. Now they had to figure out how to navigate this new reality together, or risk losing each other forever. As word spread about Mia's pregnancy, reactions ranged from shock to skepticism. Some whispered about gold diggers and opportunists, while others questioned whether Ethan was ready to step into the role of fatherhood. Even within his own family, opinions were divided. Ethan's mother, a strong-willed woman who had always envisioned a certain type of future for her son, struggled to accept Mia at first. But over time, something remarkable happened. Slowly but surely, Mia began winning people over, not through grand gestures or elaborate schemes, but through her kindness, authenticity, and unwavering dedication to doing what was right for her growing family. The turning point came during A family dinner at Ethan's childhood home. It was supposed to be a formal affair, complete with fine china and awkward silences. But when Mia shared her vision for the future, not just for herself and Ethan, but for the child they were bringing into the world, something shifted. Her words resonated deeply with everyone present, including Ethan's skeptical mother. For the first time, they saw her not as an outsider, but as someone who genuinely cared about their family's legacy. By the end of the evening, even the harshest critics softened their stance, recognizing the treasure they had in Mia. But just as things seemed to be falling into place, a new challenge emerged, one that threatened to unravel everything they had worked so hard to build. A scandal involving Ethan's company surfaced, dragging his name through the mud and putting immense pressure on their relationship. Rumors swirled, accusations flew, and suddenly the couple found themselves facing scrutiny from all sides. Could their bond withstand the storm? Or would the weight of public opinion tear them apart? Meanwhile, Mia grappled with her own doubts and insecurities. As much as she loved Ethan, she couldn't help but wonder if she was truly cut out for this life. The constant spotlight, the judgmental stares, the overwhelming responsibility of raising a child under such circumstances. Was she strong enough to stand by his side through thick and thin, or would the pressures prove too much to bear? As the days turned into weeks, tensions mounted. Ethan threw himself into damage control, working tirelessly to clear his name and protect his company. But in doing so, he inadvertently distanced himself from Mia, leaving her to face the challenges of pregnancy alone. The once inseparable couple now found themselves drifting apart, their communication strained, and their trust tested. It was a pivotal moment in their journey, one that would ultimately determine whether their love was strong enough to overcome adversity. And then, just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse, a shocking revelation came to light. Something Ethan had kept hidden for years. A secret so profound that it had the potential to change everything. When Mia stumbled upon the truth, she was forced to reevaluate everything she thought she knew about the man she loved. Who was Ethan? Carter, really? Was he the devoted partner and soon-to-be father she believed him to be? Or was there another side to him she hadn't seen? With emotions running high and stakes higher than ever, the stage was set for a dramatic confrontation. Would Mia forgive Ethan for his deception? Or would this be the final straw that broke their fragile bond? And what about the baby? The tiny life growing inside her, oblivious to the turmoil surrounding its arrival. As the clock ticked closer to the due date, the pressure mounted, leaving viewers on the edge of their seats, desperate to know what would happen next. This is more than just a tale of romance or scandal. It's a story about growth, forgiveness, and the resilience of the human spirit. It's about two people from vastly different worlds coming together to create something beautiful, despite the odds stacked against them. But most importantly, it's a reminder that even in our darkest moments, there's always a glimmer of hope, a chance to rebuild, reconnect, and rediscover what truly matters. So stay tuned, because the next chapter promises to deliver answers, surprises, and plenty of heart-stopping moments. You won't want to miss it. To understand how Ethan and Mia ended up at this crossroads, we need to go back even further, to the roots of who they are and the lives they lived before fate brought them together. Ethan's rise to success wasn't just about talent or luck. It was fueled by a relentless drive, born out of hardship. Growing up in a working-class neighborhood, he watched his parents struggle to make ends meet, their dreams sacrificed for the sake of survival. From an earlier age, Ethan vowed to break free from that cycle. he poured every ounce of energy into school, scholarships, and side hustles, determined to create a life where money would never dictate happiness again. But somewhere along the way, he lost sight of what truly mattered: connection, vulnerability, and love. Mia, on the other hand, grew up in a small town surrounded by art and creativity. Her mother was a painter, her father a musician, and their home was always filled with colors, music, and laughter. Unlike Ethan, Mia didn't have grand ambitions of wealth or power. She wanted something simpler, a life rich in meaning, not material possessions. Art became her escape, a way to express emotions words couldn't capture. When she moved to the city after college, she hoped to find inspiration and opportunities to grow as an artist. What she didn't expect was to fall for someone like Ethan, a man whose world seemed galaxies away from hers. Their differences were both a blessing and a curse. At first, those contrasts drew them closer. Ethan admired Mia's ability to see beauty in the mundane, while Mia marveled at Ethan's determination and vision. But as their relationship deepened, cracks began to show. Ethan's workaholic tendencies clashed with Mia's desire for quality time. His need for control conflicted with her laid-back approach to life. And when the pregnancy came into play, these underlying tensions reached a boiling point. Neither of them had planned for this. Not now, not like this. And the weight of unplanned parenthood forced them to confront parts of themselves they'd rather ignore. The scandal surrounding Ethan's company added another layer of complexity to their already fragile situation. It started with whispers among employees, then escalated into headlines splashed across newspapers and social media. Allegations of unethical practices within the company put Ethan under intense scrutiny. While he maintained his innocence, public opinion turned against him quickly. People questioned his integrity, his leadership, and even his character. For Mia, watching the man she loved being torn apart by critics was gut-wrenching. She tried to be supportive, but the distance between them grew wider with each passing day. What made matters worse was Ethan's reluctance to open up about the scandal. He shut Mia out, believing he was protecting her from the chaos. But instead of shielding her, his silence only pushed her further away. She felt isolated, unsure of whether she could trust him completely. And then there was the secret, the one Ethan had buried so deeply that he convinced himself it didn't matter anymore, until Mia stumbled upon an old email chain late one night. Unable to sleep due to anxiety over the impending birth of their child, the revelation shook her to her core. Ethan had once been involved in a legal dispute years ago, something he swore had been resolved quietly, without consequences. Except now, evidence suggested otherwise, hinting that the past might be coming back to haunt him in ways he hadn't anticipated. As Mia processed this newfound information, she wrestled with conflicting emotions. Part of her wanted to confront Ethan immediately, demand answers, and hear his side of the story. Another part feared what those answers might reveal. Could she forgive him if this secret shattered the image she had of him? Or would it confirm her worst fears, that perhaps she didn't know him at all? Meanwhile, Ethan remained oblivious to Mia's discovery, consumed by his battle to salvage his reputation and protect his company. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. Here they were, fighting separate battles within the same war, yet unable to lean on each other for support. Amidst all this turmoil, a subplot emerged involving Ethan's younger sister, Claire. A fiercely loyal ally, Claire had always looked up to her brother, idolizing his achievements and defending him against detractors. But even she couldn't ignore the toll the scandal was taking on Ethan, and by extension, Mia. Concerned for the well-being of her soon-to-be niece or nephew, Claire decided to intervene. She arranged a private meeting with Mia, hoping to bridge the gap between the couple. What transpired during that conversation revealed layers of pain and misunderstanding neither woman had fully grasped before. Claire shared stories from Ethan's childhood, painting a picture of a boy burdened by responsibility. Long before he became a CEO, she explained how his fear of failure drove many of his decisions, including his tendency to push people away during tough times. Hearing this gave Mia new insight into Ethan's behavior, softening some of her anger. At the same moment, Mia opened up about her own struggles, how lonely and overwhelmed she felt, carrying the weight of their future alone. By the end of their talk, both women agreed on one thing. Ethan needed help, but more importantly, he needed to let someone in. Back at the office, Ethan faced mounting pressure from investors and board members. Some called for his resignation. Others demanded transparency. Every decision felt like walking a tightrope, knowing one wrong move could bring everything crashing down. Just when he thought things couldn't get worse, a mysterious envelope arrived on his desk. Inside was a document tied to the unresolved legal issue from his past. A reminder that secrets rarely stay buried forever. Panic set in as Ethan realized the stakes were higher than ever. If this information went public, it wouldn't just destroy his career, it could ruin his family too. That evening, Ethan returned home exhausted, dreading the inevitable confrontation with Mia. But when he walked through the door, he found her, sitting quietly in the living room, holding the ultrasound photo of their unborn child. For a moment, all the noise faded away. The scandals, the accusations, the secrets. All that remained was the raw truth, staring back at him. He was about to become a father, and nothing else mattered more. Taking a deep breath, Ethan sat beside Mia and finally broke his silence. "I owe you an explanation," he said, his voice trembling. What followed was a heart-to-heart conversation, unlike any they'd had before. Ethan confessed everything: the legal troubles, the guilt he carried, and the reasons he kept pushing Mia away. He admitted his flaws, acknowledging how much he had messed up, but most importantly, he promised to do better, not just for Mia, but for their baby. As Mia listened, tears streaming down her face, she realized forgiveness wasn't going to be easy. But neither was walking away. They still had so much to figure out, so many hurdles to overcome. Yet in that moment, surrounded by uncertainty, they chose to hold on to hope. The climax loomed closer with each passing hour. The next morning, Ethan received a call, summoning him to an emergency board meeting. Rumors swirled that key stakeholders were planning to oust him unless he provided irrefutable proof of his innocence. Simultaneously, Mia prepared for a doctor's appointment, anxious about the health of their unborn child. Both knew the decisions they made in the coming hours would shape not just their futures, but the legacy they left behind. Would Ethan fight to keep his empire intact, or sacrifice it all for the sake of his family? And could Mia find the strength to stand by him, no matter what happened next? With tensions reaching a fever pitch, the stage was set for a dramatic showdown. Secrets would be exposed, alliances tested, and hearts broken. But amidst the chaos, one thing remained certain: love, no matter how flawed or imperfect, had the power to endure, even in the face of unimaginable odds. The question was, would it be enough? The emergency board meeting turned out to be a battleground. Ethan walked into the room, his heart pounding like a drum, knowing that this was the moment everything could crumble or transform. The air was thick with tension as he faced the stern faces of investors and executives who had once praised him. but now eyed him with suspicion. One by one, they laid out their grievances, accusing him of negligence, poor judgment, and worse. But Ethan didn't flinch. He stood tall, gripping the folder in his hands, a collection of evidence proving his innocence, painstakingly gathered over weeks of sleepless nights. When it was finally his turn to speak, he didn't hold back. He admitted his mistakes, acknowledging the errors in leadership that led to the scandal. But he also made it clear he wasn't responsible for the unethical practices being pinned on him. With clarity and conviction, he presented documents showing how a rogue faction within the company had acted without his knowledge, exploiting loopholes for personal gain. It wasn't just about saving himself. It was about protecting the integrity of the business he'd built from scratch. As the hours dragged on, something shifted in the room. Doubts began to dissolve, replaced by reluctant respect. By the time the meeting ended, Ethan hadn't just survived, he'd earned a second chance. Meanwhile, Mia sat nervously in the doctor's office, clutching Ethan's hand tightly. The appointment had started off routine, but when the ultrasound technician paused, her expression unreadable, Mia felt her stomach drop. For what felt like an eternity, no one spoke. Then came the words that changed everything. "Everything looks healthy. Your baby is thriving." Relief washed over Mia like a tidal wave, leaving her weak yet elated. In that moment, she realized how much she'd been carrying, not just physically, but emotionally. She looked at Ethan, seeing not the CEO or the man embroiled in scandal, but the father of her child. And for the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to believe they might actually make it through this storm together. But the surprises weren't over yet. On their way home, Ethan received another call, this time from Claire. Her voice trembled as she delivered news that would shake them both to their core. The legal issue from Ethan's past. It wasn't resolved after all. Someone had filed a lawsuit, claiming damages tied to decisions Ethan had made years ago. This time, there was no denying its legitimacy. Panic surged through him again, threatening to undo all the progress he'd made. Yet before despair could fully take root, Mia stepped in. "We'll face it," she said firmly, her tone leaving no room for argument. Together, and so they did. Over the next few weeks, Ethan and Mia worked side by side, navigating the legal labyrinth while rebuilding their relationship, brick by brick. They leaned on each other in ways neither thought possible, finding strength in vulnerability. Ethan learned to let go of control, trusting Mia to guide him when he faltered. Mia, in turn, discovered reserves of resilience she never knew she had. Together, they weathered depositions, court hearings, and endless scrutiny, emerging stronger with every challenge they overcame. In the end, justice prevailed. The lawsuit was dismissed after new evidence surfaced, exonerating Ethan completely. Word spread quickly, restoring his reputation and earning back the trust of those who mattered most. At the same time, the couple welcomed their baby, a beautiful girl named Lily, into the world. Holding her for the first time, Ethan felt a sense of purpose, unlike anything he'd ever experienced. All the wealth, success, and accolades paled in comparison to the love swelling in his chest for this tiny human who had already changed his life forever. As months passed, their family settled into a rhythm that blended chaos and joy. Mia continued pursuing her art, inspired by motherhood, to create pieces brimming with emotion and depth. Ethan scaled back his work commitments, prioritizing quality, time with Mia and Lily. Their home became a sanctuary filled with laughter, creativity, and warmth, the kind of place neither of them had grown up with, but always dreamed of having. Even Claire found happiness, her unwavering support for Ethan, and Mia, strengthening their bond as siblings. Looking back, they realized how far they'd come. What started as a whirlwind romance, fraught with challenges, had evolved into something extraordinary. Love hadn't magically solved all their problems, but it gave them the courage to face them head-on. Through every twist and turn, they learned that true strength lies not in avoiding adversity, but in embracing it and growing because of it. For anyone watching their story unfold, the takeaway was simple yet profound. Life rarely goes according to plan, and that's okay. Sometimes, the greatest treasures emerge from the most unexpected places. Whether it's a chance encounter at a charity gala or the arrival of a child during uncertain times, moments that seem daunting at first can lead to blessings beyond measure. Ethan and Mia proved that even in the darkest storms, hope remains, if you're willing to fight for it. So here's to love, resilience, and second chances. To families forged, not by blood alone, but by choice and commitment. And to stories like Ethan and Mia's, reminding us all that no matter where we start, we have the power to shape our destinies, one brave decision at a time.